All right, today we're doing something a little different. We are putting Nike stock, that's NKE, on the examination table for a full-on technical checkup. Yeah, we're grabbing the lab coats, we're grabbing the stethoscope, because we're going to find out if this stock is really healing or if there's more trouble lurking just around the corner.
And really, it all boils down to this one big question, right? After a really tough run, is Nike finally lacing up its shoes for a sprint back to the top? Or is it about to stumble and fall flat right at the next hurdle? We're going to dig into the charts and find out exactly what they're telling us.
So let's kick things off. I want you to think of this whole thing as a doctor's visit, but for a stock. We're literally putting Nike on the table, we're going to check its vitals, run a bunch of tests, and just see what the data is telling us about its overall health right now.
Okay, and here it is. This is our patient's initial chart. And what's so interesting here is the contrast. The big, scary diagnosis is bear market. That sounds pretty bad, right? But look closer at the current state, attempting recovery. This is huge. It means the patient is officially off the critical list and is actually showing signs of fighting back.
All right, first things first. Just like any real checkup, we got to start with the basic vitals. Pulse, temperature, the most immediate signs of life. And for a stock, what does that mean? Well, it means we're looking at its most recent price action.
Now, before we jump into the numbers, let's quickly talk about our main tool here, the Simple Moving Average, or SMA for short. The easiest way to think about it is like the stock's average pulse. It just smooths out all those crazy daily spikes and dips to give us a much clearer picture of the actual trend.
And boom, here's our first really positive sign. Check this out. The current price is trading above both its 5-day and its 20-day averages. To stick with our analogy, this is like the doctor seeing the patient's fever break and their temperature returning to normal. It's a crystal clear signal that in the short term, things are definitely improving.
So, what's the takeaway here? Well, the crucial point is that based on these initial vitals, the short-term prognosis is looking good. The trend has officially flipped from bearish to bullish. So our patient is feeling better, for sure. But now it's time to run some deeper diagnostic tests.
Okay, so we're leaving the examination room and we're heading to the lab. We're going beyond those surface-level vitals to look for the hidden signals. I'm talking about the internal momentum indicators, the stuff that tells us what's really happening under the hood.
And this is our first major clue from the lab work. This is from the accumulation/distribution indicator. Just think of it like an X-ray that shows us where the smart money, the big institutions, is flowing. And get this, right now, it shows they are quietly accumulating shares. That is a very strong sign that they believe a real reversal could be coming.
Next up on our list of tests is the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. I like to think of this one as the stock's momentum gauge, kind of like its energy level. It basically tells us how fast the price is moving, and more importantly, if it's running too hot or maybe too cold.
Okay, and this is where the diagnosis gets really interesting, a little more complex. So the RSI we just talked about, it's at a healthy 55, which is leaning bullish. Great, but the MACD, well, it's still technically negative. But, and this is the key, look at the MACD histogram. That is positive. What that tells us is that even though the bigger trend is still lagging a bit, the immediate short-term momentum is shifting in the right direction. And it's shifting fast. It's kind of like hearing a faint but steadying heartbeat after a real scare.
But hold on, there's a bit of a warning light flashing here. This number, 100, comes from something called the StochRSI, which is an even more sensitive momentum indicator. And a reading of 100 is the absolute max. It means the stock is overbought in the very, very short term. It's like our patient just ran a huge sprint. They showed amazing strength, but now they're a little out of breath and might need to catch that breath. A small pullback before they can keep running.
All right, so we've got all the lab results back, we've got some really positive signs, but we've also got a few cautionary notes. So now it's time to play doctor, put it all together and lay out the clear arguments for both sides, the optimistic bull case and the more cautious bear case.
So here's how it all breaks down. In the bullish corner, we have the price trading above those key short-term averages. We've got the smart money buying in, and we have that rising momentum signal from the MACD. But in the cautious corner, we've got that flashing overbought signal. And this is a big one. The stock is still trading below a huge long-term hurdle. It's a classic tug-of-war, really. A battle between recovery and resistance.
Okay, so we've reviewed the chart, we've checked all the vitals, and we've analyzed the lab tests. It's time. Time for the final diagnosis.
We're going to write the prescription based on everything we've seen.
And the final verdict is, Nike is officially in a recovery phase. This is the key takeaway from our entire checkup. It's not just trying to recover anymore. The signs are now strong enough to confirm it's actually happening. Our patient is on the mend, for real.
But there is one number you absolutely have to watch. This might be the single most important number in this whole analysis. $67.89. Why? Because that's the 200-day moving average. Think of it as the final boss battle, the last major test of strength. If Nike can break through that level, it would confirm that this recovery isn't just real, it's sustainable.
So, what are the doctor's orders here? Well, let's break it down. First, the official status is a confirmed recovery phase. Second, the short-term outlook is definitely bullish. The signals are promising. Third, the big test, the one to watch, is that 67.89 resistance level. And finally, because of that little overbought warning light we saw, the strategy is to look at this as a buy-on-dip candidate. You might want to wait for a small pullback to find a good entry point. And that pretty much brings our checkup to a close. The diagnosis is in. It's positive. The patient is clearly improving. We know the path forward, but we also know there's one massive hurdle left to clear. So the only question that remains is, does Nike actually have the strength to clear it? We'll have to wait and see. Thanks for tuning in.